So, Shaka Hislop, 3 games into the new Premier League season, we love a bit of overreaction when you and I look back at what we've seen so far. So, we're going to look at who's had the best start to the season and who's had the worst start to the season. But I want to start with two teams who've had phenomenal starts to the season. You can only beat what's in front of you, or you can only get a result against the teams you play against. Arsenal have been fantastic so far, and Leeds United, especially that win over Chelsea. What's impressed you most about Arsenal and Leeds so far?
That Arsenal have been winning games, even though they haven't played particularly well. And they look like a genuine threat to that top four. Saying that, I predicted as much in my preseason predictions. I thought Arsenal would finish top four. So it's the least I guess I could expect of them. As far as Leeds goes, though, that's been a surprise. I thought Leeds would struggle. I didn't think they'd be in a relegation fight, but I thought Leeds would struggle this season. Listen, we're only 3 games in, so there's still plenty of time for Leeds to find themselves in that relegation fight. But it's been a far more impressive start to the season than I expected. Saying that, you can say the exact same thing for Arsenal.
You can. Let's take a look at the two sides individually. For Arsenal, they've maybe got the missing piece in the jigsaw that kind of completes the front four with Gabriel Jesus. William Saliba, a lot of Arsenal fans knew of him, had kind of maybe paid attention to him when he'd been out on loan, but he's come and settled in seamlessly. They've got a super goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsey and Martinelli. I mean, anyone who watched the Arsenal documentary, All or Nothing, knows how highly the club think of Gabriel Martinelli, and he's taken another step. Where could the issues be? Could it be squad depth? Or what could it be, an injury to Jesus? Or could, as Stevie Nicol has said, hey, they've not beaten anybody so far. He's not got them in his top four. You have. What are the kind of worries for Arsenal going forward that might stop them from keeping up this wonderful start to the season?
My worries about Arsenal remain the same as they have been for the last couple of seasons. That this is a team that, when things are going well, can play good football and can get results. It's how they cope when you aren't playing particularly well, when you are having difficult times during games. Now, saying that, they didn't play particularly well against a very good Crystal Palace team, yet found the result. It's a long season, as I mentioned before, so there's still a lot of time for Arsenal to maybe prove that they haven't moved on that much from their previous selves. Early signs are that they have. If it continues, I think Arsenal finish top four. But that, for me, is their only real concern. Not necessarily so much about squad depth, and of course, with European football to come, how that will be tested. But my concerns remain pretty similar as to how they have been for the last couple of seasons.
But Shaka, we're all in football for different reasons, but the one thing that connects us all is the ability to dream. And if you're an Arsenal fan, the way you started last season, losing against Brentford, thumped at City, losing their first 3, they've won their first 3 now. If football fans can't dream, if they can't look ahead and see where's the Champions League final in 2023 and get the passports out, what's the point? Now, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, of course, a little bit here, but come on, let the Arsenal fans
you are. Especially since Arsenal aren't in the Champions League this year, so they have no reason to look forward to the Champions League final 2023. But I get your point. I get your 24. Point. It's the hope. It's the hope that kills your mom, and that's the trouble. As fans, we're all entitled to have that dream, to be filled with that hope at the start of the season. But this really is a marathon. League seasons are marathons, and you have to cope with not just the starts, as difficult or as easy as they may be, make what of you like, but difficult periods during the course of the season, whether we're talking about fixture congestion in January, whether we're talking about when the FA Cup comes around and deep cup runs and how you manage your squad around that, but you also have to deal with injuries. And even when you don't, teams just don't play well all season long. And it's how you cope with that. And that for me is where the real test is, and where we'll see whether Arsenal can really hold their own. Now, as I said off the top, I think they can. I hope they can. Everything we've seen so far suggests that they can. But this is a marathon, and we're only,
of course,
3 steps in to this 38-step marathon. For Leeds, though, again, just going back to our comparison, when this was proposed to us, it was who had the better start. And I knew I'd probably upset Arsenal fans that in some way, if I said Leeds had the better start. Now, Arsenal have won 3 games that ordinarily you would expect them to. Leeds, and that result against Chelsea, albeit they had a huge helping hand through Edouard Mendy's early mistake, through Koulibaly's red card. But I expected Leeds to struggle. And after throwing away a 2-goal lead against Southampton, I just wondered. Now, there's no question in my mind. I still think Arsenal finish higher than Leeds. That for me is not the discussion. The discussion is about who had the better start. I just given my expectations or lack of them for Leeds, I'm leading Leeds, even though Leeds have taken 2 points less than Arsenal in 3 games.
What about the other end of the table? One team that I never thought I'd be mentioning or speaking about when discussing this topic is Liverpool. It's not been a good start to the season. And it's not been a good start to the season for West Ham United, your old boys, as well. Now, looking at Liverpool's fixtures coming up, they're all very winnable, as the first 3 were for them, and that didn't go according to plan. And for West Ham, they just didn't look like they were at the races against Brighton, especially. I thought they were all right against Forest, and they could easily have won that game. How they didn't get something from it, I don't know. Who's more worried right now, West Ham fans or Liverpool fans?
West Ham fans are more worried, because I think West Ham fans are generally more concerned about a relegation scrap, more so than Liverpool fans, who will not be in the relegation places. I don't think I'll win any awards for saying that. The bigger challenge is the head start that City have gotten so far. They have dropped 2 points, but still are what, 5 points clear of Liverpool already with only 3 games gone. And now, given the kind of head-to-heads that these two have gone through over the last couple of seasons, both these teams, both City and Liverpool, have clawed back huge deficits late on in the season against the other. So there's still a lot of time for this to play out. But you don't want to give teams like City a head start. And that's exactly what Liverpool has done. So that is very disappointing as far as they are. The more worried fan base, though, I think would be West Ham's. Now, you point out their start. First game at home to Manchester City, you lose that. No real shame, even though you don't put up much of a fist. You then go away to Nottingham Forest, newly promoted Nottingham Forest. Going away to newly promoted teams is always difficult, because the atmosphere, and we spoke about the hope of the fans, always comes into play. You have a goal disallowed, you hit the underside of the crossbar twice, you have a penalty saved, and you concede a goal where the defender clears the ball into the striker's knee and you lose 1-0. So you take that one on the chin. You then go away in Europa Conference League and perform very well, winning, and then that performance against Brighton. And now I think Brighton are a very good team, far better than maybe the expectation around them coming into this season would suggest. But it was about the performance for me. And now, I didn't think that West Ham would have anywhere near as good a season as they had over the last couple. I thought they'd struggle in relative terms. I didn't think they'd struggle as much as this. Now, they have players to come in, Skamaka, hasn't featured as prominently as you would like, and maybe that will change and change their fortunes. But the concern for me is balancing that European action with league football. Is your squad deep enough? Right now, give us 7 days. You'd suggest no.
Let's end this with a brief chat about Liverpool and what we've seen so far, especially the Manchester United game. And defensively, they were all at sea. And I found an interesting stat that the last time Joe Gomez partnered Virgil van Dijk, not in the same starting 11 as him, because he played it right back a few times, but the last time he partnered Virgil van Dijk in the Premier League for Liverpool, they lost by 7-2 against Aston Villa. Now, defensively, they were all at sea. Trent Alexander-Arnold, one of them for the goal, just like he was so reactive rather than proactive. And they just looked disjointed. They've got a lot of injuries. I get that. They're missing Sadio Mane. You've got Darwin Núñez doing stupid things and missing 3 games. It'll be fine for Liverpool, but do you worry that by the time it is fine for them and they're back to normal, they could be too far behind Manchester City, having dropped more points?
Yeah, I think that's the big concern for Liverpool. The start that City have had, or more to the point, the relative starts between the two clubs, and your ability to make up that ground. Listen, for me, Liverpool is all about tweaking. As much criticism as we have piled onto Liverpool, given their start to the season so far, it's not a lot different than what we expected. We know Trent Alexander-Arnold isn't a good defender. We know Robertson is more attack-minded, like Trent Alexander-Arnold on the other side. We know that you don't get an awful lot of goals from Liverpool through midfield. It's all about that front three. So it's about some tweaking, some settling in with Darwin Núñez coming in. If he can, again, settle in to the position, and I know he's got a suspension ahead of him. If Virgil van Dijk can be as good as he finished last season, I know he's coming back from injury and maybe hasn't at all been as good as he was previously. But let's be honest, the Virgil van Dijk that we saw last season was as good as, or just about as good as any defender in English, if not world football. So he has to get back to that position. So it's just minor adjustments for Liverpool to see them back to being at their best. And yes, that lengthening injury list is also a concern. But as you say, just kind of given who City are, given how they've strengthened the partners that they have, given the depth of their squad, tellingly, when Liverpool were down to Manchester United, I looked at Liverpool's bench to see how Jurgen Klopp could change things, and there wasn't an awful lot of options.
No.
I mean, do you bring on Fabinho to change a game when you're 2 down? Other than that, there was barely a recognizable name on the bench. So that's Liverpool's issue to contend with, one that City absolutely do not. I still think that the holy grail for Manchester City is Champions League football. And when that gets going in earnest, and in earnest I mean the knockout stages of the competition, maybe, just maybe, that distracts Manchester City enough for that chasing pack to claw back any lead that they have. But you've got to keep yourself in touching distance at the very least. And right now, that touching distance is lengthening for Liverpool.
So what else you got to do? You got to keep your feet on the ground. So not quite got red and white ribbons on the trophy just yet. Not quite got Leeds in the Champions League just yet. Liverpool in the Championship, they should be too strong for the rest of the teams there. And West Ham down there as well, they should go up with Liverpool. Come on, let's just calm things down. But you know what? If you're an Arsenal or Leeds fan or a West Ham or Liverpool fan, either enjoy it or don't get too worried about it just yet. Plenty of time left.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.